Black Adam is now out in theaters, and I'm very excited to give you guys my non-spoiler review for this movie. If you've been able to check it out, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section. Please try and keep your comments spoiler free and let me know what you thought about this movie. As well, if you're new here, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review for Black Adam. So at the moment, Black Adam's not getting the best reception from critics at this moment on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got about a 48% from the critics score. So I wasn't too sure how I was going to feel about this, because sometimes I agree with the critics, sometimes I don't, so I knew that. But I do know some of the fans have been enjoying it. And then the trailers for me just looked average, so I went in and I would say I was fairly entertained by this movie. It's not a great movie in my opinion, but fairly entertaining. As I think when it comes to the action, it's fun. It's a lot of fun with the action. I think as the story as a whole is kind of forgettable, kind of weak. Like there's stuff there, it just sort of, to me it felt like they're more focused on the action than the story, which if you're someone who's just wanting fun action and watch The Rock do what he does, you'll probably really enjoy this. I was hoping for a bit more substance to this, and I didn't quite get that, so it is kind of forgettable for me, but the action made it pretty entertaining. Also, some of the character dynamics in this with The Rock, Hawkman, and Dr. Fate, I thought that was really good, because for me the first part of the movie, maybe like the first half of the first act, I wasn't too invested. And it wasn't until sort of the first interactions between Black Adam and the Justice Society that's when I started to get invested in this movie. And just the character dynamics I thought were really good. To me, the standouts of this movie was Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate and Hawkman, who was played by Aldous Hodge. For me, those two were the standout of this movie. I really enjoyed those characters and their performances. I thought they were great. I thought they worked well alongside The Rock as Black Adam. Black Adam being more of this serious guy, deadpan with some of his line deliveries, which worked for some humor. I thought they worked very well. And as I just mentioned, the humor's very hit and miss in this movie for me. Some of the stuff from Black Adam is pretty good because it's, just that deadpan expression and tone and the delivery, and it can work. And most of the times from Black Adam, I thought it did. Some of the other characters, the non-superhero characters, I thought the humor was kind of fell flat a lot. It was sort of that easy humor. It's the humor that's not really, to me, doesn't feel like was thought out a lot to be smart. It's just cheap humor, if that makes sense. That's sort of how I felt about some of the humor in this. There is a funny joke that plays out a couple of times between Hawkman and Atom Smasher. I won't say what it is, but I thought it was quite funny actually. The Justice Society in this movie I quite enjoyed. As I said, Pierce Brosnan and Aldous Hodge as Dr. Fate and Hawkman I thought were great. Probably my favorite part of this movie. The other two members, Atom Smasher and, what's her name? Cyclone, I believe that was her name. They were good. The actors were doing a good job in the roles, but those characters weren't given as much to do or as much characterization. Their characterization was sort of familiar from other young superheroes we've seen in movies, I felt. But I thought they were alright. They had some good moments, but they didn't get as much to do as the other two members of the Justice Society, in my opinion. But overall, I quite enjoyed the addition of that. And as I said, the action in this is pretty good. It's pretty solid. Some of the CGI is not that great, especially in the first action scene with Black Adam. There were moments I'm like, They had some odd choices to add in certain music or songs in some of them too, and I was like, it wasn't working for me. But most of the action scenes after that I thought were pretty good. There's some good ones with Black Adam against the Justice Society. You get bits of it in the trailer. I thought those were really good. The final battle I thought was pretty neat with against the main villain. I thought that was pretty good too. The villain himself, very forgettable. Can't remember what his name is. Definitely a weak point of the movie, unfortunately. the action in the final battle with the villain I thought was pretty good. Just the villain himself was very disposable, and they do a trope in this superhero movies that I don't think it's been done for several years now, but it was done a lot sort of in the, I think in the early 2010s, late 2000s, and they sort of brought it back in this a little bit, and I was like, really, you're doing that? It wasn't in it a whole lot, at least. You'll probably know what it is once you see it. So yeah, that was a bit of a mixed bag with the villain. And The Rock himself, I thought, was good in the role. He's, in my opinion, not the most versatile actor, but he always has a likable presence in all the roles that I've seen him in, and he does a good job. And in this one, I thought he did a good job. It's a little bit of a departure from what I normally see him do, because in this one he's maybe not the bad guy per se, but he's not the hero that he often is in some of his other movies, I'll put it that way. And I thought he played it very well. At times it's because of The Rock has a huge, persona. It's hard to see him not as The Rock when you're watching the movie, if that makes sense. But overall, I thought he did a good job in the role. There were a couple of technical decisions that I thought were kind of odd. One is the use of slow motion in this. Sometimes it was effective, and sometimes I enjoy the slow motion, but they used it a lot in this movie, and at times it felt very unnecessary. Like, I was watching, I'm like, why are you doing slow motion right now on this, like what's on the screen? To me, sometimes I think they just went overboard with the slow motion. Also, there was one scene where this character is supposed to be talking to this group of people, and it was filmed. To me, it looked like the actor was speaking, like he was really projecting his voice, and that's what you would do in that situation so people would actually hear you. But they did weird like ADR stuff with his voice where he was talking like a normal, soft-spoken voice. And it just watching that, hearing the voice, but seeing what was on screen, it just felt off. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. So there were some smaller details like that kind of nitpicky, but it just felt weird to me. For me, one thing I think might hurt this movie a bit was the amount of hype that was built up, especially from The Rock himself. It made it seem like this movie was going to be like a real game changer or something, and for me it really wasn't. And I think a lot of people, even the ones who are enjoying it, are sort of feeling the same way. It's not a huge game changer. So I think that might hurt this movie a little bit for people's expectations. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet, maybe just check your expectations a little bit. Don't expect a huge game changer in the comic book genre or the DCEU. Just go in expecting a fun movie with good action. That's what I would suggest. So overall for me, it was fairly entertaining with the action, because the action was quite good, and the character dynamics with Black Adam and the Justice Society. Those two things really held the movie up for me and made it fairly entertaining. But also for me, it's going to be a movie that I'm not going to really remember very much of it, because of just the lack of substance. There just wasn't as much substance to this. So yeah, I'd say overall it was okay, fairly entertaining, but also kind of forgettable overall compared to a lot of the other comic book movies we get. So I think a lot of people will quite enjoy this if they're just looking for fun action movie, a movie that you can just shove popcorn in your face and watch The Rock be in the DCEU. I think if that's what you're looking for, you're going to really enjoy this. If substance is really important to you, this movie may not be for you. As for me, I'm sort of in the middle. I'm a bit more on the positive side, where overall I enjoyed it. I was fairly entertained. So for me, I would give Black Adam a 65%. It was okay. It was fairly entertaining, as I said. About what I was kind of expecting based off the trailers I watched a while ago. So, not disappointed, which is good. I think it was fun. I'm excited to see where they could go in the future with this. So guys, if you have seen Black Adam, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it. Please keep your comments spoiler free, because this is a spoiler free review. As well, if you're new here, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for some upcoming reviews. My next one should be of Werewolf by Night. Hope to have that up on Saturday, and Monday I'm hoping to have a ranking video of the DCEU. So stay tuned for those, and until then, take care everybody.